want to sit on that side, is when Cameron takes his pictures. He always gets me because he stands over there and takes a picture of the speaker, and I'm like, I don't want my ugly mug in there. Not elected to anything.
Yeah, no, I had made my own copies, but you gave me the better one here, so.
So how's school going?
Still waiting for the semester to really get going so I can catch up on some projects.
Yeah.
With that, I've been running around the state and speaking. So it's just
Studied
for to the holidays. So
Yeah.
other responsibilities, challenges.
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta ask.
Get the
I gotta
cryptic
ask.
stuff.
Oh yeah. He would be great. Okay.
He's so
Yeah.
said it
Yeah.
county.
Yep.
That's what most of the public calls me.
My early career. Oh yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's that.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Okay. Date on it.
So in your new space, is there anything else? Square right now.
Yeah. Let's open it and see. No. I think PDF would probably be better. Is this the most updated one? Okay, great. Okay.
You know game plans.
Y'all can save it on the desktop, so.
One more minute.
Oh, it's the dark one.
The dark one.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to
Are you trying to
think about these things again. We have
So the thing I really like, which I didn't expect, was the shared meeting space on the ground floor.
1, 2.
Smaller spaces up on the but shared spaces in all these agencies is actually nice because there's always some bigger room.
Well, it's
Out of the office into
It's 7 o'clock. Well, welcome you all to the Middleton City Hall, and I'm going to call the meeting of the Middleton Plan Commission for November 12th, 2019 to order, and the first item is the roll call.
Hubbard,
Present.
Murray,
here.
Paulson,
Here.
Ramsey, and Slavish.
Here.
Brar is present.
Yeah, all right. So it's not 7:05 yet, so we are going to start with the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second. Let Jen second it.
All
You're
right.
always so quick to say.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes from October 22nd, 2019 to say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. So let's take item number 1. Design review for Arbor Lakes Apartments Maintenance Garage Addition 3511 Roma Lane. Abby? Or
Daphne handled the staff.
Daphne? All right, let's go.
Okay, yeah, so the applicant first came a couple years ago proposing a 32 by 32 garage. This is what they came, actually they have other proposals here. And so it is slightly larger, but it's basically in the same position that they had proposed before. And they had moved it, so it's basically just covering an existing parking lot, so there's already asphalt there. The impervious surface is only increasing by about 48 square feet. We had emailed you guys about Sean's comments from before, which I can pull up here. And so we recommend approval contingent on resolving any other engineering staff comments.
So few changes is they're going to have a water and sewer in this case.
Yes, they do have.
And
to that.
so they were going to lose one parking lot, or did they going to cover it? And there was something about some trash truck coming over there. So you
Yes.
want to, go ahead and address some of the issues raised earlier.
Hi there.
So, go ahead.
Bruce Holler with D'Onofrio Kotkin Associates on behalf of Fiduciary. So yeah, essentially, it's just basically the building is 47 by 32, going on top of the existing parking lot that's there now. There were a couple maintenance trucks that had been parked currently where it is, but we've accounted for those two to be parked, one in front of the building and one between the buildings. Just to kind of give you an idea that we do have room to replace those two stalls.
What is that building right there? Yeah.
The existing one?
Yeah,
That's
that's-
another maintenance
it's another
garage.
maintenance garage.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
The siding and shingles will match, so they'll coordinate together. There is also in that, as it currently sits with the parking lot, there is an enclosure for a trash enclosure there now. That's getting, I think a new one is getting
So we
replaced.
just put it in front of it where it's shown on
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we're
So,
minimal
I-
impact on any grading around there, just enough to kind of just get the building put in.
So are you going to actually put right next to each other, or there was one idea that there would be no space between those two, or you're keeping it?
There's going to be a space between the two.
And that is how you want it?
Yeah, there'll be independent buildings with,
Okay.
it's about, I believe, I don't know if I have if you can see the dimension there, but it's at about 50.
Questions?
Where does the drainage go off of the building, current, like the slope of the land around it and things like that? Can you explain?
So the highway Q is off to your left of the sheet. Drainage pattern extends from Q towards, and it drains down towards the back of the building. So we'll have to split the drainage around the side of it.
Can you just pull up Sean's comments?
Yes.
I think he was concerned about the trash enclosure and, okay, so there'll be a chain link fence with privacy slats. Okay. Move to approve the design?
Okay, leaders. Okay, further questions? Michael? Dan? Leaf?
That's contingent on.
Contingent on, contingent on resolution of engineering staff comments, yes.
Okay, so the motion has been made and it has been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. All right, go ahead and build it.
Thank you.
So, okay, we are on to now 7:05. It is 7:05.
Yep.
So I'm going to open the public hearing for the general implementation plan amendment and extension of Tribeca Drive, Tribeca Village. So anybody who wants to speak for or against it? Anybody who wants to speak either in for or against it? Okay.
In the emailed comments.
Sure.
Sure.
I'm part of the.
We did receive an email from Terrence Wall last night. It was emailed to all of the plan commissioners and the mayor at 5:07 PM, and I assume that he wanted this to be part of the public record.
Yep, yep.
I did want to address a few of the points that he brought up in his email, and I apologize that Daphne and I were both at a training all day, so we didn't have a chance to respond via email. First item he mentioned is public notification, and I just wanted to go on the record to say that the city did meet the public notification requirement. There was the yellow sign posted on the property for 21 days. This appeared in the newspaper on 10/24 and 10/31 in the Middleton Times Tribune, and we also mailed notice to the property owners within 250 feet on or before 10/24 as is required. The second point he brought up is that Canal Street is a private street, and I've spoken with J.T. Klein about this, and he is aware that if he wants access to the street, that would have to be negotiated between the two property owners. The last thing I wanted to just address, because many of the other points that he made were related specifically to workforce housing in this location. And I just wanted to point out that the city as a policy has encouraged workforce housing throughout the city rather than relegating workforce housing to particular areas in the city. We especially like workforce housing in proximity to employment areas and also to transit. We do not differentiate from a land use standpoint between workforce housing and market rate housing. And I hope we would never look to do that at any point in the future. And our staff is supportive of workforce housing in this location.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to close this part of the hearing now. And is there any action on that one?
Yes, that is on the agenda for tonight.
So should we, well,
We should stick with the order.
yeah, okay, let's stick with the order. All right. We go to item number 2, design review for Lakeview Park Shelters, 6300 Mendota Avenue. Now, this is a big thing, so let's go over it.
Yes.
Who's going to do it? So, Stephanie?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, our public lands director is here.
Award-winning public lands director.
Yes, yes. Well, Matt, you want to come here and say whatever you want to say? Let's give him a big hand. He won one of the awards very recently. So, good job. Keep on doing the good job. So,
Thank you, Mayor. We're excited about this project. It's gone through a lot of public input that started with a couple of meetings at Lakeview Park. And because of less than great attendance, the architects camped out in City Hall here prior to meetings one night. And we invited the public in and again got some really good feedback and participation in that round of public input. And we had too big of dreams because the initial estimate came back at 2.4 million. There was a pretty sizable addition being made. I think one of the things that is unique to point out about this site is that we're estimating that there was somewhere between 16 to 20 feet of excavation and fill material placed, and it's why the foundation walls have held up well on the existing building. So what we really started to look into in terms of goals for the project were improving restroom access to the splash pad and playground. Currently, to access the restrooms, you have to enter the building and either walk through the meeting room to get to either the men's or women's, depending on which end of the building you come in on. And we wanted restrooms that accessed from the exterior of the building and that improve that flow and access building issues. The other thing we wanted to do is look at maximizing interior space of the facility to hold more recreation programs and be more suitable to small family gatherings such as small weddings, family reunions, birthday parties, those sort of kind of celebrations. And then obviously we know that this is a center point for a lot of community celebrations and events. But I will say that probably the biggest comment I get about this building is how dreary, dark, and uninviting it looks, and that's almost consensus from those that have reached out during this process. So you can see that there's a big focus on opening up sightlines, both from a security, crime prevention, as well as just being a more visible amenity in the park. This is my favorite view, that wall that extends.
The brown wall.
So what was learned in the plans is it was originally there, and there were thoughts of putting an additional roof over that area that never transpired. So that wall has been there, and it really doesn't serve much of a purpose. So in the next rendering, if you want to move through, the architects pointed out to me that it kind of creates this gathering point in the open air portion where you could have speakers, or you could set up a gift table, or have it be more of a focal point of your event. So we're not, I think from a colors standpoint, there was some discussion on colors, especially that accent color of whether that sea green color is the right color or not. And I think PRFC will have more discussion about that. There was discussion of looking at the city logo color palette and seeing if one of the colors from the city logo wasn't a better fit as that accent color. In terms of materials, there's a big focus on reusing and reclaiming a lot of the material. The wood siding that you see as part of the roof would be reclaimed from the exterior of the building now, and then obviously sanded. And the whole goal here is to really try and lighten this up and make it more of an inviting space.
So
Can
how
I ask-
about,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. So one of the big thing was the foundation, and was supposed to be a huge cost. Are we trying to do something so that you could use the existing foundations?
That's the plan, but note that all electrical and all plumbing will be replaced as part of the project. Those are systems that we have a lot of challenges with currently. The electrical capacity of the shelter doesn't meet a lot of the user needs, and then plumbing is always a challenge in these shelter buildings, so reconfiguring that. The interior space, I forgot to mention here too, is one of the things that came out is trying to create gathering spaces. That was one of the biggest comments from the public. So that you see the two garage doors that have become very popular in a lot of restaurant settings are now becoming very popular in park shelters. I know McFarland has recently built one with a similar setup, as has Fitchburg. And they're really well received. And outside of this would be one of those gathering areas. There'd be a concrete platform. We'd have different bench or Adirondack style chairs for seating in that area, where just kind of an informal gathering location. But that the interior room, the fireplace would stay. They'd remove the wood burning aspect of the fireplace and put a gas insert in to, I think, ease maintenance staff's concerns about the potential of starting a fire in the shelter, and those sort of things that could occur currently. But you see a really lightened atmosphere. We're looking at different floor surfaces and trying to find what is best both for the multiple uses as well as cost. So
the early rallies, now 2 or 3 groups can rent it. You got the east, you got the west, and you got the inner room. So how many independent groups would be able to rent this one?
So that was one of the other goals. You had the large outdoor area, which I think we called the West End, which housed a lot of large events and groups. And that got booked first. And then we had the meeting room that got booked second, and then you had the East Shelter that got booked third. And I would say since I've been here, about 70% of the rentals in the East Shelter thought they were reserving the West Shelter, or were reserving space just to have space, and were trying to squeeze groups in that space that didn't fit the space, and it caused other problems. So one of the other goals here was to increase or decrease confusion over rental space. So now you'll have the ability to rent both the exterior and the interior together as one, or separately the exterior or separately the interior. So we'll be going from 3 rentable spaces to 2.
Questions for Matt?
How much does the interior event space change in terms of size? Because right now it feels very, I mean, yeah, I agree with you that it's like death to go in there. It's just
Yeah, go ahead and come to the mic,
so,
please.
I would say that you're adding, it's going from 2/3 to a full, you're adding a third. So you can see that line that's running kind of diagonally. That, and to the west is all the exterior space that you're adding to the interior.
No, I think that'll be a real improvement.
Can you please state your name for the minute?
It's Diana Davis from RO Eberly.
And just to add to that, the ability to have 1,700 square feet in that space,
Yeah.
that actually exceeded what we kind of thought we would be able to achieve. So when I saw that number, I was really excited because from a programming standpoint, that opens up a lot of options for rec classes.
Yep.
Are there any sustainability components added to the design or the building?
I'm not sure we've gotten quite to that point yet. Obviously, the LED lighting will be a considerable upgrade. All the fixtures, both exterior and interior LED. We haven't gotten into other sustainable discussions, but I think that's kind of that next step as we go forward in finalizing the plans.
As well as just the reuse of the material, just not adding to that piece, trying to just use as much of the material that's already there rather than adding to it.
So there will be, there will be some security cameras or things like we had once dumpster issues and then we did install them. I'm sure you would have them as well, right?
We have security cameras currently at Lakeview. It's our hope that through this project, we'd be upgrading those into the police department system where they're able to pull those cameras up 24/7 and not reliant on going and pulling a flash drive off of a server and having to go back through footage. It's just the technology's increased to the point now where as we do these buildings, we want to kind of upgrade the technology infrastructure as well.
Okay, good, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that just that internal space to be able to do programming, because, I mean, like everybody else, you're there all the time, but I've never seen anybody use the inside because it's so mid-century modern. Sorry.
Well,
There may only be one staff member who likes the current design.
it's pie and ice cream social. That's what happened there.
Right, I mean,
Yes,
it's at the
yes.
Pie and Ice Cream Social, but that's like
Yes.
once a year, right? So.
It is, yes. Yes, more questions. Michael,
I think it looks great.
so you're happy the way it is and you will be happier with this one?
Yes.
I have one more question. The glass, is it completely see-through, or is there any reflection that will be perceived when you're outside? What type of glass?
We're still looking at that. I think we're looking at mainly a clear glass, though. Maybe some of these images show a little bit more of a reflecting glass, but I think we're looking more for clear, so you can have that visibility in and out.
So we don't know the cost yet, right, or did we?
There is a cost projection included at the back of the packet.
Oh,
I think one thing to be important as you look at the cost estimate, every one of these shelter projects that we've done, one of them we've built and one of them has not moved forward because of bidding. The same architecture firms involved, and I think they're sick of me hearing that why do the projects always come in over budget. So we've got a distinct goal in place of trying to have our estimate with current market conditions and fingers crossed that we get a bid below what our estimate is. And we have went forward, PRFC's moved forward with a construction manager to assist in trying to dial those numbers in a little better and give us what we hope will be is a better end result at the end of the process.
But I think since it's such an important community facility, I know George is going to write things about how expensive it is, but George's not here, so we can say that. But, I mean, it's like a signature of the community, so I don't think we want to skimp just to try to build something. So you said the facility's about twice the size in square footage as Penny Klein Park shelter?
Considerably larger than that shelter.
Right, and
It's
that one
more
was-
than twice.
That's 600,000 or 700,000, so it's not that
is
out of line.
Is that already built?
No, that was on the website, just the kind of scoping document.
Okay. So how does it compare to that Taylor Park?
Taylor Park.
Well, I think the important thing to note with this shelter, and it's much different than any of our other shelters, is this shelter has interior four-season space. And the rest of our shelters all have open-air spaces. And with the Penny Klein shelter, or I'm sorry, the Taylor Park shelter, which was the most recent one we did build, that shelter has year-round restrooms, but the rest of the facility is just a seasonal facility. It's as cold there outside on the picnic tables tonight as it is, walking out the front door. So this is four season space. In the dead of winter, you could have a family reunion, a small wedding, all those kind of social gathering events. And I think you'll see increased use, especially in the winter months, but I think year round it'd be hard to increase the use right now in the summer months just because it is our largest reservable space. But I think making this more of an amenity over the winter months, we have visions of even looking at an outdoor ice rink at this location and using the shelter at times when there aren't rentals as a warming area. To be fleshed out in how we program it, but I think that's one of the big comments we got in the public input is we have ice rinks kind of scattered around the community, but none of them have a warming area or concession area or even skate rentals. And I think those are all things that could be explored with an improved facility here.
As you're talking about this being four season, has there been any thought to what the costs would be to maintain that building, the utilities and so on and so forth over the course of the winter then?
So
Gonna be
it's four season now. The restrooms are heated. We don't blow the lines out here. It's available to be rented during the winter months. I think the size limits the use of it more so.
So, but Dan's question is, would it be cheaper or about the same?
I think you'll gain some
Maintaining it.
efficiencies based on improving. I mean, we spend a fair amount of maintenance on, toilet goes out or a faucet or there's an issue here or there with, lately it's been a sewer lateral that's needed, some pretty routine maintenance. So I think you're going to gain some efficiencies and costs by replacing some of this infrastructure. The use may increase and it might be a close wash. We haven't done a deep analysis on how much costs are going to increase to operate the space because the space for the most part is going to operate as it does today. It's just going to be an improved space, a little bit larger space, but I think the cleaning contracts and those kind of things all stay the same.
So you mentioned ice rink, so that will be more on the east side of it if it is?
I don't know that I've gotten to a point of looking at the right location for it. There's a lot of products that you can buy in aiding ice rink development that allow you to almost put them anywhere.
Okay. Yes, Michael, you got some questions, right?
No, we were just talking about, there's probably going to be an increase in operational costs, but, clearly it could be more than offset by the additional rentals that you might be able to achieve.
And I think the decreased cost in fixing some of the aging infrastructure as well.
Okay, more questions.
The only question is, I had Daphne pull up this, is one of the things I've always, other than the darkness, it always seems like there's too much asphalt and this kind of inconsistency about whether you're supposed to park there or whether this is just for loading. Have you thought about kind of reducing some of the hard surface here to kind of make it clear that most people should park in the parking lot and then walk, but then kind of, I guess there's no limited way to kind of have just a service path towards the back for delivery vehicles?
I hear what you're saying. I'd love to go that route and try and figure that out. Even with a service path, I can't tell you how many Honda Civics I've watched drive through this park to get to the splash pad to unload and then drive back out. And that's an exercise in caution for anyone listening because I'm amazed that some of those, smaller cars get back out based on the challenges we have in the park with saturation and standing water. It's not a discussion that we've really gotten far into in terms of access to the building. I think it's something that we need to take a look at. I think any reduction, the police department, emergency services, our staff need to be able to access the building. And as long as you have that, I think you're always going to present a challenge for the public in terms of coming right up to the building. Since the signs were recently updated, I think it's been better.
Okay.
And I think it's just an effort that public education, the park ranger program continuing its evolution and involvement can aid in those things as well.
Trash pickup, would it be that there would be dumpsters on, like, in this view in the location here? So
We have a dumpster enclosure in the parking lot, and the trash is taken from the building by hand to the dumpsters.
And that enclosure could be upgraded too, but it costs money, right?
Well, the Kiwanis actually installed that long time ago, that enclosure, about 25 years ago. So we could ask them to upgrade it, perhaps. But that is a good idea. Further questions? Jennifer, you have something?
I guess one thing that, you know, as a user of the park with little kids that were using the splash pad, you know, and having a great time, I think one thing to consider would be ensuring that those family bathrooms don't have paper products, or, you know, you can make them as streamlined as possible. So even the sinks seem kind of standard height, maybe even make one low so a kid can use it. Things like that will make the life of a parent much easier.
A lot of those heights are extremely regulated by ADA.
Yeah.
And have to be at certain heights. One of the things we are doing is looking at adult changing tables, and not just looking at the baby changing tables, but kids of all sizes that have a caregiver or even an adult that needs those type of facilities.
So do you see anything missing here which could be added inexpensively and could make life easier for the citizens?
I would say if it, you know, instead of drying your hands with a paper product, if there's a blower or something that would.
We have hand dryers.
We are
like
planning
that.
on only dryers in there.
Okay.
So the only paper products would be the toilet paper.
Stuff like that.
Yes.
It looks like you're upgrading the water stations, because right now they're pretty unappetizing and unpleasing.
Yeah,
Like a water bottle filling station.
Correct. Water bottle filler with a drinking fountain.
Yeah.
So do you see anything superfluous which shouldn't be there? Well, you can still look it up, but you know, if we don't need something and would be just wasteful, we shouldn't have it. So
I'd
if
like to
there is
see,
something which is missing, we should have that too, so.
I'd like to see solar on at least portions of the building around the roof, if we can find a way to finance it.
Abby,
I don't know if the
I
structure
came
can.
up with that, and also Kelly on that suggestion. One thing that Daphne and I were talking with Kelly about earlier today is that the city has allocated funding for solar on 3 buildings next year, and depending on what happens with the community campus plan, we may only have 2 buildings that we're putting solar on, so we might actually even have some funding that could be shifted to be used on the park shelter instead.
so are there any federal grants we can apply for or any of the other things?
I don't know about federal grants, but we would certainly be applying to Focus on Energy. They have a program to incentivize solar.
Which way's?
That can cover.
This is south?
This is south face.
So do you guys know if there's any grants we could apply for solar or other features?
I mean, it really would just be going through the Focus on Energy, and they really help with that process.
That's it?
Yeah, I would say that would be the
So you
first
want
step.
skylights too there, or there
No.
are? Okay, no skylights.
I
Okay.
think structural stability of skylights adds a lot of
They-
cost.
they are- Well, also, in the long run, they always have problems.
Skylights were explored in the open air portion, and for the reasons you've both mentioned, were backed out of the final design.
Okay, well, Michael seems to be happy with this.
I like it.
How about you,
I
Dan?
just have one more question, grilling. So where would someone put a grill in this design?
I don't see our grill locations changing. There are several grills located in the
Back.
park. You're talking about the grills that are along the trail system?
Well, do they actually set them up right near the shelter right now or not?
What I'm saying is we actually have physical grills that you can grill on. I believe they're just on the
Yeah.
edge here of the shelter where,
Technically, they
on
wouldn't
the
be
trash.
grilling
Just be on the
near
trash
the
can.
shelter.
There's one over there too, right?
correct.
But people
Okay.
do bring their grills for events up to the shelter.
But not, hopefully not inside the shelter.
Right, and again, that's all part of the park ranger and enforcing some of those rules and regulations and just having more consistency with that program.
Okay. More questions? Leaf?
I'll move approval of the design as presented.
Wow, that's a big move here, so need a second now.
Second.
You guys are two friends here, right?
Well, Leaf chairs the Parks Committee.
Yes, yes. Okay, so now motion has been made, seconded, and how about the questions and comments now? Michael? Jennifer? Fine. Okay, yes,
When
Kurt.
would you start building? Probably in April?
Our hope is to be out to bid by the end of the month, and with a bid opening probably late December, award early January, and then it's, on these projects, you're really at the mercy of the contractor that's awarded the bid in terms of schedule, and there's certain requirements in the contractual language, but we're really trying to be as open with those as we can and not pay premium for certain windows of construction. Ideally, yes, April, and as soon as we can finish and reopen the facility, because one of our big challenges is just in alerting everyone that it's not available this year. Everyone's making their reservations already and trying to find locations and different amenities that work for some of these different events for the year.
So, Matt, let's try to do everything we can to get 5 to 6 bids and no less than 3. So we don't want to have just one bid because that isn't going to go.
Completely agree.
So let's, whatever we can do to send it to whoever number of people, but let's try to get as many bids as we can. And we don't want to delay it, and you can find the best timing if you need to delay about a week or 10 days, that when you will get better bids, more bids, let's do it. Okay, so the motion has been made, it has been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes unanimously. Okay, guys, let's get back to work now. So let's get a lot of bids and the good bids. So thank you. Okay, item number 3. General Implementation Plan Amendment and Extension of Tribeca Drive, Tribeca Village. All right, this is the exciting thing here now. So, wow, see who is here.
Had to pull this down to more
who is going
appropriate
to-
height on these
Should
tall
we
people.
let them go for it, or you're going to say? Go ahead.
Thank you. Brad Hutter, representing Make Commercial Real Estate, representing the ownership group for Tribeca. And I have Brandy Zander, our lead broker, and Matt Schreiner from Veerbicker with me. And we're here to answer any questions and make any type of presentation that you might be interested in. And when I say, of course, make a presentation, I mean defer to my more intelligent and well-spoken comrades back here.
You are all very intelligent. We have no doubt about that. So, Abby, you addressed some of the questions which were there.
Yep.
So do you want to have any more?
We didn't receive any other public comments. Our staff recommendation is a finding that the GIP is consistent with the comprehensive plan. We recommend approval to the Common Council. We've listed some contingencies of approval. So one is related to water and sanitary sewer facilities and just an assurance that the land uses can be served from Public Works. Approval of the conceptual changes proposed to the Tribeca Drive right-of-way. Acceptance of an ICE evaluation, which is underway right now by SRF Consulting. We haven't gotten the result of that report yet, but depending on what the report recommends, there may be some additional land dedication requirements right around the intersection. And Public Works Committee would be accepting the ICE report once we get it. And then also contingent on resolution of engineering staff comments. Oh, in addition to the email, we also included in the packet 2 support letters. They were both specific to the J.T. Klein portion of the development, so the housing on what's identified as parcel E. One from Workforce Housing, the Workforce Housing Committee, and one from the alderperson for the district.
Yes.
Thank you, Abby. Oh, excuse me, I just, for the record, I'll also note that Abby did a nice job of identifying that the city provided all appropriate notice for, related to the applications and the different things before consideration. I also wanted to note for the record that in Terrence's letter, it somewhat might have intimated that maybe developer, and we don't know whether he meant Meg as the owner or JT Klein or presume, or maybe took up, but we did post all appropriate necessary notice on the land as well. So for the record, we also complied with all of that. Even though it's the location, Veerbicker took proper measurements and made sure the signage was up in the correct location a lot before the notice period was required.
Well, it was in the newspaper twice, and there was a sign there.
Right, in the right spot. So
So I
we try to be very careful on that. So thank you.
And we actually also flagged on the October 22nd Plan Commission agenda, we had it as an update from staff specifically that the Jacob Klein proposal was included. So there was also that addition.
Correct.
Yes, Kurt, you are ready
No, I was
to
gonna
ask.
say there's a number of other factual points in Mr. Wall's letters that are not correct, but we'll just,
Let's focus on this, not
Let's
on the
focus
letter.
on this.
Yes.
Yep. I only am speaking to the ones that, to the item that might actually relate to MIG or the ownership group. So I'll leave the rest to anyone else that chooses to object to those.
so it seems like as we're reviewing this, we have kind of two buckets of questions or issues. One is which kind of the road and circulation issues.
Yep.
And the second, which is kind of the massing and land use issues. And I think, at least from my perspective, we've talked through, by having seen the Tuka proposal and others, that I'm not concerned. I support the kind of configuration of land uses, the height, the density, and the change of the hotel from where it was originally. And I like that building labeled 1A here and 20A have an orientation towards the Parmenter Street. I'm sure when we see the architecture, we'll see an architecture that is, I think the GIP talked about four-sided architecture, so it has design that can be seen both internally and externally. So I guess my question is mostly on the Tribeca Drive and the circulation. Just to clarify, how is the Tribeca Drive that will be continued different in
Just layout.
layout than
scheme.
the current Tribeca Drive?
Would you like me to answer that? Does that fit
Yeah.
to me?
What's
Okay.
to you and to staff? It's just
Okay, I think staff can correct me, but in most just straightforward form, Tribeca Drive previously, and years ago when this plan was initially presented and accepted, there was diagonal parking along the entirety of Tribeca Drive, and you can see that diagonal parking in a section of Tribeca Drive that had been previously completed. We took a look at that, and based on the need and our support for bike lanes and pedestrian and smooth and safe circulation, rather than trying to max out Tribeca Drive with additional parking in that manner, we came to the city and indicated that we would be willing to forego that diagonal parking for a slight adjustment on the right-of-way, and then this would...
smaller right away.
Yeah, smaller right-of-way, but this also then eliminates cars backing out into flowing traffic, as well as cars backing out into potential bikes and so forth. And we just felt the safety with what is going to be really focused on as a commercial development, office development along the Beltline, primarily with these other uses, the senior care and the workforce housing towards Parmenter, that the safety and safe circulation and flow would be better served by eliminating that diagonal parking. Then as we approach the intersection, the original plan, due to the massive big box that was there before, had a roundabout in it. And we're awaiting the traffic plan, what the results are of that. But it's presumption that without that kind of massive in and out of and huge vehicular flow, that it's likely going to mean it's likely going to result in a more standard intersection. And so we worked with Veerbicker and the city to lay out the type of intersection that would have the appropriate amount of turn lanes and the appropriate amount of right-of-way to add even an additional right-hand turn lane in the future if needed, coming off Tribeca Drive onto Parmenter.
That would be a four-way signal?
That's up to the city, really. I don't
yeah.
think that we're...
We don't know if it would be, it likely wouldn't be signalized initially.
But it'll be a controlled
Right,
intersection.
and depending on what the evaluation comes back with, you know, we really don't know at this time.
Right. In a lot of ways, we're waiting for the traffic control study to give us more direction on, you know, are we headed in the right direction? Is what we've done so far making sense? And if there's anything that needs to change, we will simply work with the city and make sure, and Veerbicker, and make sure that it's designed appropriately to handle the traffic that's expected with, whether it's controlled or not, whether it's lit or not now, to know what the benchmarks would be for the future to make sure that would be in place when and if necessary for safety and safe pedestrian and vehicular circulation.
So Brad, does this layout work with either one of those traffic scenarios then? Roundabout or the more conventional intersection?
This would be the more conventional intersection. The roundabout requires a tremendous amount of additional right-of-way, and in fact, as currently designed under the prior plan, that roundabout actually goes quite a ways into the non-flooring parking lot, almost eliminating it, in fact, and Springs Window Fashions. Based on the difficulty of implementing something like that in real life, and in taking into account what we expect to be, you know, significant but not nearly as substantial kind of vehicle access that you'd have with a big box, we went with this route and basically and thinking that was probably a prudent route to go, then waiting for the actual official study to let us know whether are we pointed in the right direction or not.
Yes, Scott.
Service that goes into this currently, no?
The closest bus service is near Mom, so pretty far south on Parmenter Street.
So would the developer be open to helping the city run bus service out to there?
The Tuca development, as I understand it, has shuttle for their members. I'm speaking for them, and this has been discussed previously and is on the record. And JT Klein is here and can probably address that himself. We're simply selling the land and designing it and putting this GIP in place in order to facilitate really what we're here for. Really is focused on facilitating the completion of the road, and then just changing the zoning effectively for what was a big box to what the city is recommending for approval on the senior housing and hotel/office.
Dan, with that, I had the same question when Jacob was before Workforce Housing, and we asked Mark Opitz, and he said that Metro is uncomfortable running the bus up Parmenter any further because fitting into their schedule, they couldn't get up, turn around, and get back on their route within the headways they've established for those routes. So it doesn't mean it can't be done, but it would be not an easy thing to add one more stop to the existing route.
But
That's, however, unfortunate, because one of the things that we talked about when this came back around, and we all pretty much agreed that one of the things that was going to make this difficult was the lack of service out to there. And with what we're proposing to put in there with office and workforce housing and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Fortunate if we can't work towards that goal.
It would be, how long is the walk from, say, the workforce housing units to the nearest bus stop?
I think it will be about 5 minutes.
I know Jacob said that it's less than half a mile, which I think is one of the WIDA requirements, so probably about a 10-minute walk.
Okay. But we like to see for major office and apartments within a quarter mile.
I've done that walk from the corner of what will be the JT Klein development to Mom's to that bus stop in 3.5 minutes. and I wasn't jogging, so I just kind of did it out. That's not official, but just walking to that.
Well,
So
my estimate was pretty good, so 5 minutes are
I would say that it's safe to say that it's under 5 minutes.
And, eventually the city has plans to have another bus line that would run along the future Bellefontaine.
Right.
We have no idea when Bellefontaine will be constructed, but that line would go south along Parmenter.
Okay.
But that is a very good point, Dan, I think, because we do want the bus service at some point there, so.
So back to the Tribeca Drive issue. So the reason that angled parking was put on initially, because when I think of angled parking in a commercial area, I think of trying to replicate that older Main Street sort of feel. Was that, Abby, do you remember, was that kind of the design criteria? And I think
it was due to the inclusion of a lot more retail within the original GIP for Tribeca than what is being proposed now.
there would be a lot of kind of in and out, but not a high volume at any one time for retail like on Main Street. But I think traffic engineers, even for main streets now, find that causes too many conflict points with backing in and out. And
Public Works Department does not like angled parking.
yeah, so I mean, I don't think there's any love lost for getting rid of angled parking. So
Well, now it's, the road is 70 feet wide rather than 90, so you couldn't really have it, so.
I guess the only other questions on circulation is parcel E is showing a driveway off of Parmenter Street. And I'm wondering if there has been consideration to, if it's even possible, not to have that relative to having people go up to Tribeca and then enter on the other side. You'd still have 2 points of ingress or egress. If we're trying to reduce the kind of number of driveways that are conflicting with Parmenter Street.
I'm going to defer to JT for that one. Go ahead.
There's an existing curb cut there.
Oh.
So that's why we kept it in the same location it is right now, to match that. And then, there's some, there's some coordination that we're going to have with when Tribeca goes through versus when we maybe start. And so it was important to us to have the access off Parmenter to build it and to have the ability to open even if Tribeca is not all the way through.
That makes sense.
And since it's an existing curb cut, I think, that made sense for us.
That makes sense.
Abby, I think, said that with the new design or the current design that was approved last week or whatever, after Tribeca's finished, we would be fine if there's some median there to have like a
Prohibit a left turn.
like a right in, right out or whatever, because the majority, as soon as Tribeca is built, people that'll be going east will go down Tribeca to the Beltline, and people that are going west will go out Parmenter up to the Beltline.
Hopefully.
Gives
But I
EMS
think-
and fire an easy in and out too.
Yeah. But you worry about people turning left, cutting through your parking lot to get up to.
Well, now if they went left into our parking lot and Tribeca's not in there, it's just they're stuck.
Yeah, I think once the Tribeca is there, that probably won't happen, so, or not happen as often, so.
Well, and then the final question is about Springton Drive and your access points
Yeah.
off of there.
Yeah.
And in particular, that intersection looks really weird off. I know that's not the final design, but it's coming right off the kind of bulb of the cul-de-sac, which seems kind of weird.
Yeah, no, actually, the
engineers agree.
That's actually, I believe that Tuca can speak to that. Their updated design actually addresses that, so good eyes, and straightens it out, and they have two on the main core of that dead-end road that they can speak to, and I believe that the city has indicated they, under current code, that there should only be one based on the total amount of frontage. We'd like to support the two, not in that location you're pointing out, because you're right, that's kind of strange. But we would like to support the two that they're proposing. We think they line up well. It is a dead-end road. There's no one else going to be using it. And plus, where we intend to connect ultimately is the service road for fire and other deliveries and stuff that would run along the entire property line of the belt line, if you can imagine.
On the west side of this.
Right, and then instead of curving in and then attaching in what you properly identify as kind of a strange way, it would run directly into that bulb, and it would be the only connector to that bulb, and then there's no strange turns or curves like I think you're seeing here that would be ultimately incorporated into that thoroughfare.
But it's your position that, and I think Tuka said they need Springton Drive for access.
Yes.
So it could potentially be vacated as a public street and just turned into a private street?
What goes on north of that, Springton?
That's Ann Voss's property. There's a for sale sign on it.
I just didn't know if that would
Right
come
now
into
it's
play at some
zoned
point.
ag.
They might need it too.
Yeah.
I think the urban service area would have to be expanded in order to. Oh, never met you. Hi.
There you go.
Well, you want to come and say hello and say what?
You would want to keep Springton Drive for.
For the first time, just kind of getting some information.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
She's wondering, what do you have?
Well, please come to the microphone.
You have to come to
if
the
you don't
mic just
mind.
for the recording.
And if, just to note, if the question is related to the actual projects themselves, that would have to be either JT, but more likely you're asking about theirs back there.
I'm asking about exactly what we're talking right now, the roundabout.
And could you please come to
That
the
road,
microphone?
Springton Drive.
Right. I'm just wondering about the roundabout as to the traffic flow and as to what you're.
I think Ann Voss's property is in the TIF district right now, and it's slatted for like commercial mixed use and everything also. So we just want to make that kind of noted that it's for sale and she plans on developing that in the future.
And so
It's over 5 acres, so we'd need access.
Would need access off Springton as well.
Yes, we would like to keep that. And then she also had the question of what they plan on doing, just putting in just south of her property. She has over 5 acres.
Can you answer anything, maybe?
I'll note for the record that we're very happy to meet with you, outside of the meeting here tonight, cover anything and all plans that might be coming forward. And specifically, I'm sure that Tuka would be happy to meet with her as well, if I can speak for you guys, in order to bring her up to speed on what the latest designs, and revisions might be as we go forward with traffic engineers and so forth, to make sure that it's all smooth and flowing and that we're not in any way obstructing, or that they're not obstructing, we're not with our plans obstructing, anything for Ann to the north of us. You bet, of
It's
course.
good to have big, happy family, isn't it? So.
But
we all have to be in it together, so.
You see that the blue building there, that's 1A, is going to be, that's the Tuka Senior
Yep.
Housing Development. And then the yellow or tan 1B is going to be probably will be a hotel.
Yeah.
It's the intention. We have not put together the contract for the hotel yet. Obviously, we have with Tuka and with JT Klein. That's the intention of hotel. The plan there, as I believe, is, I'll make sure. It notes hotel, but it's also could be office if the hotel deal doesn't come together. We want to be open about the fact that the alternative there would likely be an office use. Okay?
She was also wondering about the sewer and water connections, that she doesn't want to be cut off in any manner. And we just wanted to kind of make that noted.
This development wouldn't affect that. However, your property I don't believe is in the urban service area. So in order to move forward with the development for the Voss property, we would need to take a request for an urban service extension to the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission. That used to be a very lengthy process, but they've shortened that process to about 2 months. So we would need to know what the land uses are that would be involved with your development before we could take that application forward.
But both for the commission and for Ann, I can just state for the record, to my knowledge, and I'll have Matt Schreiner from Vierbicker confirm this, that to my knowledge, there's no impact on her property from storm or utilities or any of the development that we're doing. Everything's being handled on site, and there's nothing that would be pushed your way or cut off. Matt, can you just confirm that for us? Speak into the microphone.
Okay.
Matt Schreiner confirms that is the case, so just one.
Okay, other questions? Michael? Jennifer?
My question is for Abby. I wondered if the city has any requirements for impervious surface that, to me, if you flip back to the view you were just in, 1B and 1A, there's a lot of parking lot. And so I'm wondering, is there any standards that the city has thought about or employed in that maybe would break that up a little bit?
We do have impervious surface areas in almost all of our PDDs. We also have maximum lot coverage in all of our traditional zoning districts. Really what it comes down to generally is whether the property owner is able to handle the pretty stringent stormwater management requirements that the city has on site. With the Tuca project, the Klein project, and then of course with the future developments that we don't really know, the exact positioning of the building, none of those have gotten approval for stormwater management plans at this point. So that would have to be considered at Water Resources, so.
I would point out it appears to be a huge improvement over what was planned previously as part of that site plan.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I was going to point out that the difference between the big box and this is between 30 and 40% more green space than previously. So what we're asking for approval on is actually bringing a lot more green space than what's currently approved.
So has that been to the Water Sources Management Board?
So typically, the stormwater plan doesn't get approved until the SIP
SIP
phase.
stage.
Oh, okay, okay, all right, so not yet.
And just when Abby said the stringent city requirement, we mean the formerly stringent until the state legislature
Made it less stringent.
required us to be less stringent. So, I mean, I'd like us to explore with council whether we, legal counsel, whether we can, since PDD rezoning is a conditional legislative act, whether that part of the developers agreement could require back to our more stringent standards that we used to have.
I don't know if.
But I don't know what the particulars of this site are. It's a little.
Are you
It's
saying?
less problematic from a stormwater perspective than other parts of the city.
Right. Well, one of the interesting components of this that will have to be addressed at some point, maybe even this evening with Tuca, is that there's actually drains underneath the West Beltline Highway from the land to the east, or excuse me, the land to the west, including public lands and right-of-way, probably U.S. highway and city right-of-way, that simply drain now onto the Tribeca lands. And so as part of the TIF process, I believe Tuca is proposing that part of their TIF application that's already been submitted, and I'm speaking for them on this point, but I'm aware of what the design plan is, that they would be picking that up with piping and bringing it around down the on the south side of Springton, saying that for Ann, on the south side of Springton down to a catch at the intersection of Springton and Parmenter, and then taking it off in the northerly direction. So the water that's currently flowing there is almost entirely water from the west of the Beltline. It's not actually from the Tribeca lands itself. And it's limiting then the rest of Tribeca land that otherwise might drain towards that northerly retention area, because it's my understanding, and Matt can confirm, that the city's desire is to have less water going that direction, which is what this design would accommodate. So it's in line with what I understand to be the city's intent.
I believe that's all.
Microphone.
I believe that's all contingent upon individual SIPs for this. And for our purposes tonight, I think that what we're trying to accomplish is replacing that big box site area with the senior project and the hotel office, and then in order to connect Tribeca.
Right.
And those are the main points, and then the
Yeah.
rest of this is
It's-
staff-wise and SIP-wise.
It's good background information, that's correct. It's
Yeah.
good background information, but I think the thing to take away from this is that we've worked very closely with Veerbicker and with the city to really look at and Tuca and JT, to really try to look at every aspect of how to improve the prior plan from the big box to something that's more accommodating for a longer-term office and professional development, including what's being proposed tonight, and making sure we take care of Ann to the north, and don't encroach on anything that she's intending to do in the future.
So Kurt, you want to use the word request rather than require about the stormwater?
No. I mean, it's not at a.
But we can't, not now, but we can't require
No, it's
because
just
of the state law.
It's just, right.
We can only request, so. Yes, any further questions? Michael, you still seem to be satisfied.
No further questions.
Jennifer? Dan?
It's better than it was.
Okay.
I
More
would
questions,
make
Kurt?
a motion. I would make a motion that we find that the GIP amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Recommend approval to the Common Council contingent upon. Do I need to read them? All the things that are in the
No,
staff
just you
comments.
can just mention it, so.
Second.
Okay, now further questions. Okay, well, the motion has been made and it has been seconded, and all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Well, the motion passes unanimously. Go ahead and start the work.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we are on to item number 4.
Oh, they're complaining about that, yeah.
Specific implementation plan, Tribeca, Middleton Senior Living, Parmenter Street, and Tribeca Drive in Tribeca Village.
Can I-
Abby or Stephanie?
Can I ask Abby a question? We can't approve this because the GIP amendment that would make this consistent hasn't even gone to council yet, so.
That is true, and also this requires a referral to Water Resources.
All right, so it says recommendation is referral. Is it on our agenda to actually discuss more today or just to refer?
You can discuss it today, and I think that the developer would like to make a presentation as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes, okay. Jacob, you want to make a presentation, we hear.
It's not Jacob.
Not Jacob.
Oh.
It's Tom Pianka.
Oh, the senior,
Tuca.
senior living, okay, I apologize, yes. Okay. All right, so you guys are up.
Well, good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm pleased to be here to present our plans and our updated renderings and answer any questions you might have. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce Isaac Wallace. He's my lead architect from Iconica. And for the record, Iconica would be happy to bid on the park shelter as we built the one in
As
Wanakee.
long as they,
Yeah.
you remember,
They built
we
the one in
like
Wanakee.
competitive prices.
Got it. And I'm Tom Pianka. I'm with Tuca Properties. Thank you, Abby, for pronouncing that correctly.
Tuca.
Tuca.
Luca.
People ask what that is, and
And let's hear about it.
well, it's a bar in the Cayman Islands that my brother found, and he
Wow.
loves it. But in Hindu, it means apparently good fortune and good living, and we thought that was appropriate for our senior housing.
The way to go.
There we go. So did you know there's about 10,800 Americans a year that will turn 65 each day next year? This represents the 10th year out of 19 years of baby boomers turning 65. So in 10 years from now, approximately 11,500 people will turn 65 each day.
A lot of wisdom, isn't it?
Correct.
With the baby boomers, I wouldn't call it wisdom.
There's still time.
Good.
So the need to embrace senior housing is here, and our communities need to support and embrace them, for someday you too may need a little extra help. So Isaac's been my lead architect for the last 4 projects. Each one of them continues to be improved. In a day and age when construction prices or competition is fierce, we must be smart about where about our designs and know where to and where not to spend our investment dollars. Construction costs are not going down, except for one project, yet we must remain competitive in this marketplace amongst existing properties. So, upon my direction, I've asked Isaac to amp up the design of this facility, and I'm really thrilled with what I see, and I hope you are too. This, of course, comes with a price tag, but we strongly believe that this design that you're about to see and our product offering will stand the test of time and be successful long-term. So if approved, our operating business will employ about 21 full and 37 part-time employees. Our project is estimated to generate around $375,000 in taxes per year and roughly $5.3 million of tax revenue over the life of the TID. So there's a strong need for senior housing on the west side of Madison, so I hope all of you will embrace our project here in my hometown. So let me turn it over to Isaac. He'll tell you a little bit more about this concept.
Thank you, Isaac. Let's hear from you.
I think you took all the wind there, Tom. If you can progress through a few slides. A little more about Tuca, and I think your Middleton selection specifically. And I guess if you want to stop here. So one thing it's a great privilege to be part of working with Tuca is they're one client that cares about design. Design is very important. And when we come to any new community, it's really important for us to try to identify, what are we doing? How are we going to relate to this community and be part of this community, not just another senior living with a stamp on it. So we're looking at Middleton Senior Living, and I don't know if it's the first to announce the name that the team has selected is the Graber View Senior Living, given our location with the Graber Pond right next across the street. And really, I mean, there's this boating kind of water culture in Madison and surrounding neighborhoods that we really want to kind of embrace and be part of at the senior project itself. So go ahead and go forward. So just background for anybody who's not familiar with the kind of where we're at. The project site is the north part of Tribeca development, really holding the corner of Springton and Parmenter Street. Easy access from people coming off on Century Avenue, and then also to the north. Go ahead and go forward. Good visibility too. Very good visibility from the Highway 12. Zooming in a little bit to Tribeca development itself. Our site once again is up there in the corner. All the stormwater, I know a lot of talk about stormwater, was actually the majority of the sites being collected at the south side of our property, and infiltration happening on site, and then any kind of excess stormwater retention is actually being handled with the regional stormwater facility that you can see at the bottom side of this slide here. Jump forward one more. Zoom in one step further. So really this is our site plan, and we've positioned the building so that we actually hold that corner. Our view is coming up Parmenter. We have a very strong presence as you head north, and kind of the main part of our dining and community spaces is located on the corner of Parmenter and Springton Drive. Understanding some of the concerns about parking, we have broken up our parking spaces to accommodate as much green space around them as possible. Plantings, we'll get a little further along, we can probably see some of the planting proposals. And then I have a couple of sheets from our civil designers as far as how we're catching the water. You can see the drawing here shows the berm and swale. We're picking up the water that's coming through from the west. And we're proposing and asking to route that around our site, utilizing some of the road right-of-way so that we're not utilizing ground space on our site to try to deal with what we believe to be public waters that currently flow across the field. And then this also is a good slide that shows our stormwater infiltration basins at the south side of our property, and then how we connect to the street.
So could you tell me how much of the water flows across your property there?
How much of the water?
Yeah, is it a lot or?
Well, my understanding is there's 3 pipes that actually come through underneath the highway there, and all of them discharge and right now are free to flow completely across. It's a big cornfield, right? So they flow clear across the site. And obviously any development that happens there, we need to reroute that water around us. So that's why we're proposing to do this storm sewer. It's a 48-inch storm sewer. It goes around the outside and utilizes some of that road right away.
Yeah, we had issue with one of the other properties where the water was coming, and yeah, so I just wanted to make sure that we knew what was happening, so.
Yeah, and then on our site specifically, like I said, everything up to pretty much the north side of our building is all flowing towards the south. So we're picking all that up. It's going into our infiltration basin, and then that overflows into the regional stormwater facility. There's a small portion that's being picked up on the north side of the building with a small infiltration pond there as well. And then that would overflow into that north route.
Thank you.
Storm sewer, raising the building.
Yeah, so one of the things that's driving elevations and everything for our project right now is based on kind of the storm sewer that's already been installed in the current portions of Tribeca Drive that will soon be extended out up to our property. So the location of that invert right now, what they can actually do to get back to the regional stormwater facility has actually driven our building up pretty significantly. I'd say probably about 3 feet higher than we originally intended it to be. So it's kind of pushed everything up out of the ground and requiring us to bring a lot more fill. We're working with Brad and his team as far as what we can do to try to lower that still today, but this is our current solution that we think is fairly close. So.
But maybe a good idea, so to avoid any flooding, but you're going to, I'm sure, take care of that part, right?
Yeah, we're not too concerned with flooding because I believe the high point of this entire stormwater region is actually on or just to the west of our site here. So this is actually the highest point of anything around.
Okay, so that's good. That's
so
good.
It's good, and it's, you know, it'd be great if we could settle back down in the ground a couple feet just to not have to bring as much fill in. I mean, we're looking at about 22,000 cubic yards of fill right now, so it's pretty substantial.
That's
so
pricey.
It's a hurdle that we have to try to get over. So stay tuned. I think we have some ideas of how we could try to reduce that. And then another thing, you know, talking about design, it's really important for us to kind of look at the landscape design and how people interact with it. So working with Veerbecker, we've went through and identified kind of different seasons of the year and how the plantings change different colors, what kind of experience it is for memory care residents that, you know, sit outside in these spaces but still need to be confined. So we've added, as you can see, the blow up of the memory care garden, a lot of plantings and walking paths to allow these people space to get outside but still to be in an environment where you know, they don't escape, I guess. Seems a little severe, but you know, people's safety is important, and it's a main key to this. So
are you including a walk,
Yes.
a round walk or something?
Yep, so the plan you can see there kind of on the left corner has the walking path around it with all the plantings and different trees, shrubs. I think try to keep everything edible vegetation too, so nobody accidentally eats the wrong type of plant. And so there's been a lot of thought in that, and I think it shows in the plans. So. And then just real quickly looking at kind of how our building works. So our first floor, slab on grade, is a portion of that's going to be our parking garage. It gets built in underneath as much as possible into the earth. Unfortunately, as we're getting pushed up, we're getting less built into the earth now. But then the memory care wing to the south. Our entry, lobby, kind of a lot of our main ground floor spaces that are shown there in the blue. Second floor houses a lot of our dining facilities, bistro, those kind of amenities, and then units on the second, third, and fourth floors. And really, given this site, once again, we've tried to maximize our west views, taking advantage of views of the sunset and the kind of the topography off to the west, and then also from our dining room looking to the north and Graber Pond and the, once again, rising topography and wooded hills and stuff like that that you can see from our site. So. And you can see that with our location of common spaces and that kind of stuff. So. And so a few more enlarged plans of that, but you can kind of blow through those unless anybody has specific questions. Then we get to exciting stuff. So I think when we were here a month or so ago, we showed you some of these images as far as the concepts that as a team we kind of looked at. We decided that we liked this direction. And as we evaluated Middleton, we really feel like kind of a modern prairie style is the direction we want to go. So as we've taken that direction, we've really come up with this concept where it's modern prairie with a lot of horizontal elements. We're looking at using a brick product that's more linear to represent replicate some of the stuff that Franklin Red had done with very horizontal masonry elements. Some blues and tans for our color, once again tying back to kind of gray review, water interaction, and then some kind of wood-toned elements at some of our key common areas to help wayfinding and help identify the important portions of the building.
Yeah.
Through the elevations.
Industrial prairie can be pretty cold.
Works out. This is the view from Parmenter Street as you're heading north. Early on, we got told to pay close attention to this elevation because it's an important view that everybody's going to be able to see. So we're identifying this as one of those common spaces on the 4th floor and some windows that get brought down through the units. This project has a ton of big windows, 3-bay windows. We keep hearing from our management team, operator, how important natural light is. So that's something we pushed in this one even further than we had in past projects to get just a ton of daylight in for these people.
Can you describe the different materials in this view?
Yeah, so the base of everything here is really masonry with these vertical elements that shoot up. That's all still that masonry.
That's all masonry?
It's all masonry with cast stone caps. The other siding materials, blue and tan, are really a lap siding. In the past, we've used a lot of LP Smart side for that with different exposures. Typically, in the darker colors, we like to use smaller exposures just to get some more contrast from the lighter colors. Banding, and then the stuff you're seeing in kind of the oranges brown hue is intended to be possibly some kind of niche hot product or something that has a wood warmth representation. We have samples over here if anybody's interested in seeing more of it. Yeah, we have the masonry, blues and tans, and then
even though he says it's Franklin Wright, he's got those.
Yeah, of course. Verticals.
Advance one more. And then one of the things we heard early on too was trying to how we are interacting with the Tribeca Drive. So we threw this out there. One of the thoughts we came up with is creating this public plaza that really holds the intersection of our sidewalk that comes off of Parmenter and the public sidewalk. Creating some kind of concrete paved areas off to the side that allow some benches, some seating. So one for our residents, if they are intending to go for a walk around the Greater Pond, it's a nice stopping point for them or anybody else that's on the public sidewalk to stop and take a break and try to take advantage of the infiltration gardens and the plantings that we're going to be installing in that area. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to any questions you might have.
You want to start, Kurt?
Can you show us the view, I guess the site plan just north of the building? Oh, actually down to right there. Yeah. So that's that landscape feature north of the building. I don't know if we can zoom in. That's like it has like a miniature golf little.
Yeah, so
I thought that was kind of cool design there.
Yep, and I think eventually we'll get a rendering that shows all of it very specifically. It's still being developed, but the concept is in the past we've had a lot bigger sites, and so we end up sprinkling in bocce courts and sometimes shuffleboard, fire pits, that kind of stuff. And here we're looking at more of an urban site. Everything's kind of contracted. So what we've done is we're calling this a recreation patio. Right now we're looking at doing a smaller bocce ball court, potentially like a large-scale chess, and then a 3-hole putt-putt because we're finding that the residents really like to have something they can compete against. In the past we've done putting greens and that's all fun and games, but until they can actually compete against each other, they don't necessarily use it as much. So
no axe throwing?
Probably no axe throwing, but and then the intention here is that we're going to have it slightly raised up from what would be kind of the sidewalk or street level of Tribeca, and then have accessible egress through the building or access through the building, but then the dining room patio would actually look out over that, so people could actually be really close to the action and activities that are going on there. So,
does it?
Go ahead.
Isn't that weird to put that so close to an intersection? I realize Springton is not going to have much traffic, but
yeah, I mean,
it seems weird to put recreation so close to the road.
So So, it's all, we have a retaining wall that kind of forms our front edge of this. So,
The retaining wall, probably here where like the topo is like 933.
yeah. If you
Okay.
If you go forward a couple of floor plans, it might just help you better. Yeah, so go over to the right there a little bit. You can see there's that little bent L shape.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So the intention is that we do some kind of retaining wall there that would start to define the edge of where our recreation space is, and then build the grades up. So you're not going to be necessarily at the street level, you're slightly raised up. So, but we want to keep the activity close to the building, and at a spot you want to be. This is going to be a part of the site where you kind of look between Nuns and whatever development's happening directly to the north, and you have this great view of hilltop trees and the pond in the distance there. And very much sun protection. Sun's, having shade's important. And
Yeah,
having the
okay.
northeast corner here, we really get a great
Northeast.
spot to not have to build a bunch of structure.
If it works for you, it works. At first glance, it looked a little weird because usually the recreation is tucked behind the building, away from the traffic. But looks good.
So what do you have facing Middleton on the north side of your building? It's going to be that recreation area, and was that then parking lot?
There is a small parking lot for staff, but then our dining facility, our main dining room actually faces out towards the north. And it's actually one of that's the corner piece there. You see it's a second floor plan. So that's one of the features of our building will be this dining room. It's kind of a story-and-a-half space. And then the dining patio. So this is the place where people would sit outside and eat and take advantage of the views.
Did you have that view? I wanted to see the view again. Because she lives in the 3-unit building that's on for 5 acres right now.
Sure. Yeah, we didn't, none of these actually necessarily look, the view right here, the second one up is going to be the view facing Springton Drive. So you can see the dining room area, which is right there. And then the patio, we just right of that. Well, right hand will get to the left too, so you can. Yep. And that's where oversized trash, bocce ball, that kind of stuff, so that's.
You mentioned, I think, and I'm not sure, that you had a little retention water runoff to the north.
Right.
That's not going to affect her property at all? You're not going to have any runoff on it?
No, if anything, because right now, everything that hits our site goes to the north. Yep, and we're reducing that, so there's a small portion that's still left that we have to pick up there, because we can't get it all to go south. But that small portion is first going to an infiltration pond, so it has a chance of soaking and then overflow.
Yeah.
Overlanded out as well.
I'm sure they will be happy to talk to you after the meeting if you wanted to. So have you talked to, I'm sure since you have the memory care and some of the other things, so you would have, you talked to Alzheimer Dementia Association, that what kind of features might be relevant or needed or appropriate?
Yes, and I think part of the pieces we skipped over this time that were part of the last presentation is we came up with Killwood Senior Living.
Oh, okay.
And, they have, I don't remember the numbers exactly, I don't know if you can share the numbers of the properties they manage. And
Today, Tealwood operates 2,800 units in 2 different states.
Oh, wow.
So they started in skilled nursing, and over time they kind of backed out over their 30-year career, and now they're also managing independent living. They operate all our 5 properties across Wisconsin, and we have a fantastic relationship with them. They're just fantastic operators with people of all different needs, especially.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things at one of the meetings I had heard that people with dementia, if you have some circular path, they can go and walk around it and they are not likely to get lost. So I'm sure you probably considered that.
And we have that within our building footprint.
Okay, so you do. Okay, thank you.
If you really like to see what it looks like, you should go down to Kettle Park.
No, it's okay. So.
No, it's really that beautiful. I take people to the memory care to show them that portion of the building because it's special, and we're going to have something very similar to this here.
Oh, that's good. That's wonderful. Okay, more questions here. Leaf.
I'm good. Yep.
Good. You have more? Mike.
Great design. It's nice.
Jennifer.
I'm willing to support the design. It looks great. The outdoor-indoor spaces are really nicely designed. The parking looks great. Ratio of units to parking, I know we covered a little bit last time. How many units are in this design?
So we're looking at 100 total units. I think 79 of which would be IL or AL, which people that could potentially drive. And then with the staff parking. So typically what we've done in the past is target 1-to-1 or slightly more than 1-to-1, depending on how many IL/AL residents we have. So right now we have 100 units total and 116 spaces, I think, total proposed. And we feel like that's about right with the number of staff and a little higher level of IL resident that we anticipate in this facility.
Then? Well, when you said prairie style, I was concerned because we have lots and lots of that and it gets a little bit old, but I really appreciate this is very nice looking. I didn't think that I was going to like it, to be honest with you, but that front where you have the, not this one, keep going.
Yeah.
That right there.
Yep.
Really nice. I like that. Well done. Thank you.
Me too. It's good to keep Dan and the others happy, so, yes.
Because when you were saying prairie, even kind of the industrial prairie, it can get long and very. We're going against Frank Lloyd Wright. We're adding these vertical breakups to.
Okay, so what do you expect us to?
I'd make a motion to refer it to Water Resources then.
Mhm.
I'll second.
All right, the way to go. So, any further questions now? So that's the only thing which we are doing today.
Right, and I think the developer's hearing that we're generally supportive of the design and the SIP, so I can't imagine, unless engineering raises comments, should be able to get approval.
Okay.
And I talked with Isaac about this a little bit, and the timing is really good for them to potentially be able to get on the Water Resources Commission agenda for next week, assuming that they're meeting on the 20th, and then this could be back on the Plan Commission agenda for approval at the next meeting.
Okay.
But we'd have to wait until council approves the GIP amendment.
Which will be at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
and I don't know, I mean, because it's an ordinance, there is a possibility that the council would want to have 2 readings. There's also a potential that they could waive the second reading for this because it's a modification to a GIP. There aren't substantial changes, I mean, aside from removing the big box, which I think everybody is supportive of, so.
Okay, so the motion has been made and it has been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion is unanimous, so go to the water sources, so. All right, great job, thank you. Item number 5, agreement for tax increment finance district number 3 and number 5, redevelopment services for 2020 for Vanderwall and Associates.
Move to recommend approval to common council.
Second.
Any questions or comments? And we are going to keep the cost minimum, right?
Always do.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Item number 6, set a public hearing request for rezoning of general implementation plan for Pleasant View Park Apartments, Greenway Center, lots 3 and 4. So we are only setting a date for public hearing, right?
So I'll move that we set it for December 10th at 7:15.
Okay.
Second?
Any questions or comments?
Are we going to discuss
the folks are here, and if you want to
we want to hear
discuss
from the
anything,
developer and discuss the proposal, or just
Yeah.
set the agenda?
they came here. If you want to,
Entirely up to you.
Have you-
Usually
have you-
we wait because when we hold the public hearing, there may be people in the audience who want to hear the presentation.
Okay.
And so unless you want to hear it twice.
Have you changed it since the last time we saw it?
now you had wanted couple of floors.
Well, we'll want a view shed, right? Because the issue is the 14 stories will, I mean, just for your own benefit, people will want to see what that's going to look like. Yeah.
And we have one that was prepared by our own consultants from the golf course clubhouse. That's been referred to the golf course committee, and I'm not sure, I think that might be going next week, very soon. That was referred from Parks. And we also have asked our consultant, and he has provided some additional view sheds too, so those will all be included in the packet.
Sounds good.
Okay, so any questions or comments? Motion has been made, it has been seconded. All those in favor of the motion to set the hearing date, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? So the motion passes. Now need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we are adjourned.